This is the Criterion Creeps podcast, and tonight we're talking about The Devil and Daniel Webster, a.k.a. All That Money Can Buy, from 1941, directed by William Dieterle. The synopsis of the film, but first the tagline. What a tagline it is. A great motion picture dares to be different.
Does it? Is that just in general, or are they speaking specifically about this movie?
This one. A great motion picture dares to be different. Farmer Jabez Stone, about to lose his land, agrees to sell his soul to the devil, known as Mr. Scratch, who gives Jabez 7 years to enjoy the fruits of his sale before he collects. Over that time, Jabez pays off his debts and helps many neighboring farmers, then becomes an advocate for the upstanding Senator Daniel Webster. When Jabez's contract with Mr. Scratch concludes, he desperately turns to Webster to represent him in a trial for his soul.
I mean, that's a pretty fair rub.
It's about right.
Yeah.
RJ, have you ever watched The Simpsons?
Oh, I have seen The Simpsons. Why do you ask, Jarrett?
Well, do you remember that one installment of the Treehouse of Horror where Ned Flanders is the devil because Homer Simpson would sell his soul for a donut?
Oh, you mean the Jury of the Damned with the 1976 Philadelphia Flyers?
And Richard Nixon,
Lizzie Borden, with Long John Silver, I believe.
I think so.
I'm familiar with things.
Okay, cool. So you basically had seen this movie before.
Yes. Yeah, because I've seen that Simpsons episode.
Exactly. So you've seen it all. And I'm sure you're very familiar with your Christopher Marlowe, your Faust.
Oh, yeah, I know. I read Faust.
Yeah. So you know all about this. You know about these. You know what you're not supposed to do? Make deals with the devil. Don't sell your soul.
I think the bigger takeaway is that if you cry about it, a bigger, stronger man will come and help you out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm just guessing.
Yeah.
Who knows if that's what really happens.
Yeah. So, this is a movie that had long been on my radar because it's got a really cool title. Mm-hmm. It's about a devil. That's always that's going to draw me in no matter what, especially when it deals with Satan. That's pretty neat. But it took a long time for me to get around to watching this because something about the fact that this movie was from 1941 kind of was like, oh, it's going to be old. This is way back when in my early cinephile days, because I didn't want to blind buy this because Criterions are expensive. So finally, I think at one point, and you mentioned this last week, Christopher Nolan himself has this in his top 10 picks from the Criterion library. And so that was like, well, I mean, if it's good enough for Chris, I mean, surely it's good enough for my DVD library shelf. So I finally, at some point, I guess, picked this up and watched this like 2012, I guess. And I thought it was a pretty good show, pretty good movie, as RJ would say.
Pretty good show?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like other people use that kind of vernacular, right?
Yeah. So, what's this movie all about? Well, it opens up. It's almost like a fairly light movie. It's very on the kind of comedic side. Even old Mr. Scratch, played beautifully by Walter Huston, father of John Huston. He is absolutely amazing. He's easily the highlight of the whole film because he just marvels in how kind he is. He's such a nice devil.
He's a little scamp.
He's known he would abscond with a peach pie here and there.
Oh yeah, but I mean, who hasn't wanted a little taste of pie once in a while? Am I right? Am I right, Jerem?
You're talking like me right now. So he's got a little notebook. He writes names. He keeps his contracts. You sign in blood. So this movie's set in 1840, I believe. That's when it starts anyway. And the deal, the selling of the soul. Old Jabez. What a name. Jabez.
Jabez?
Well, I don't know very many Jabezes. I didn't go to school with any. I still don't know any. And I wonder if I went on Facebook. Is Jabez a name?
I'm highly invested in this. Tell me about it.
What's going to happen? There's some Jabezes.
There are some Jabezes. Do they look like hip young people, or are
They
they
do.
all like
They are
85?
young. Yeah, no, they're young ones.
Okay, well, what is J-Biz like? What is J-Biz? Like, what kind of name is this? In 1 Chronicles, Jabez is a well-respected man whose prayer to God for blessing was answered. Moreover, the author paused in this long list to give Jabez a place of honor in the long list of kings. So he's a biblical figure, Jarrett.
It's some of that Bible crap.
Up right there with Jethro, Naaman, and Mordecai.
Well, I mean, Jethro.
Well, Jethro Tull. I mean, that's a whole different story. The reason I brought it up was because in the hit remake from 2007, Shortcut to Happiness, Alec Baldwin keeps the name Jabez Stone. And I thought that was a strange decision because I was like, why would he keep the name Jabez? But apparently you and me have both been played the fool here.
That's right. So this is based on a short story by one Stephen Vincent Benet.
Sure.
He apparently wrote this and was published in the Saturday Evening Post.
Of course.
The reputable publication, 1936. And it tells the age-old tale of, making deals with the devil. And but it's also about America. Because
it
holy
definitely is.
Hot shit. I was kind of getting mad at this movie in my rewatch, watching this for the first 10, 15 minutes, because every time some fucking new characters showed up, they were telling you where they were from and reminding you that that sort of thing doesn't happen here in New Hampshire. This sort of thing doesn't happen here in Vermont, and there in Massachusetts. And they just kept saying it. They just kept saying things out loud. They kept calling each other by their first name. It was very folksy. And, sometimes that's kind of charming. But, it's just like, holy fuck. Is this what this whole movie's going to be?
Jared, are you saying that you weren't on board for the American propaganda machine that is the devil and Daniel Webster?
I was, it was rubbing me raw a little bit,
Rubbing your rhubarb or what?
Yeah, something like that.
Sure.
Anyways, it does course correct. So old Jabez, he's just struggling farmer. Those people now heavily subsidized and complainers.
Oh, well, they provide the world's food, Jarrett.
That's right. So he's recently married, and they're off to church, but the dog goes and chases the pig off. So that's one thing that I will point to in this movie that I'm sure would be a positive thing for you. This movie's treatment of animals.
Well, they're pretty kind to him. They don't want to sell them, but also that's because they only had really like one pig and one calf, right?
And they're putting a little stint.
Yeah, I appreciated that they were. I mean, their intentions afterwards. That's a different story altogether.
They'll be eating that ham.
Mm-hmm. I was glad that they didn't just knock it out. And they're like, let's eat this pig. I was like, hey, good job, Jabez.
That's right. So he's under pressure. Everything's going wrong. The big bag of seed falls into the water. It's all going tits up for Jabez. He's going to lose the farm. What's he going to do now? And he says, I'd sell my soul to the devil for 2 pennies. And so then there's this real cool moment where all this like wild, like the livestock sound and everything just goes dead quiet. And it's really effective. And then suddenly there's a man in the barn. And it's our boy. It's Mr. Scratch, Nick Scratch. I don't know. He appears. And he's got an offer. He's a sweet talker. He's got that devil tongue, and he's like, "Oh, look, you got all this Haitian gold right under the barn that someone left all that time ago." And Jabez is just like he gets preyed upon with his stupid sense of like loyalty to like being a New Hampshire man.
Well, that kind of shit doesn't happen to a man in New Hampshire, Jarrett. They're good Christian folk out there.
That's right.
Don't you know?
One thing leads to another, and he's pinpricked, blood running, picks a chicken feather up, and writing that name, that signature in blood on that contract with the devil. And everything starts going pretty good from there on in,
Sure does.
Hailstorm hits everybody's farm but Jabez's, wipes out everyone else's. And old Scratch, he's still underfoot, off there helping out Stone, handing out dollars to, hey, come on down, help farm that field. Stone's going to need all the help he can get. On the flip side, Scratch is also trying to get in the ear of this Daniel Webster, the titular Daniel Webster, who is this blustery, good-hearted man of good American stock.
Oh yes,
He's gonna win this thing nice and clean and do right by the people. And Scratch, of course, is like, no, come on, what can I help you with? Playing a big game here. So, of course, we all know where this is going. The fame, the riches, they all go to Jabez's head, and he was this like doting husband, kind of a goof, and kind of hapless. But now he's got money. He's forgetting his friends. Suddenly, his friends are owing him rent. There's no forgiving on that. He forgets about his wife. This new devil hussy, this Belle arrives from the other side of the mountain. She shows up to tend to the baby, which I guess, like, I had some questions about this little baby. So if old Jabez, like, he still has a soul, I guess, intact, right? He hasn't lost his soul yet.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm like wondering, it's like, how does that all work in this spiritual realm? Just like part of your, I don't know, do people have things about souls and semen and knocking up broads, and does that transfer? Does the devil own some of the sun? I don't know. Like, you tell me, you're the Catholic here.
Well, Jarrett, I think you're looking at this all wrong. I mean, he still has his. It's not till later it would get turned into a moth, and then he would be gone. But that Jezebel, Belle, I always took it under the impression that, maybe she was some kind of soothsayer, some kind of like demon lady.
Oh yeah, she's a succubi.
Yeah. So it's like, I feel like it's not even up for discussion, like they could have a devil baby, maybe.
That'd be cool. Where's that movie? Oh yeah, Rosemary's Baby, or
the succubus, or the incubus with John Cassavetes.
Yeah,
you know that one.
So yeah, Jabez, I think there's like one scene that I forgot how it paid off earlier on, when he goes to pay the money lender that he's borrowed money from on the mortgage. Like, he's like, it's like, is he the bank, or is he just like, is that what this is about? Or it's like, is he like a loan shark? I took it. That's the thing. It's like, kind of like, wait, he's the bank. You have a mortgage and you have to pay him back on it. But he's like, I'm going to kick you off your land because I'm a son of a bitch. But then he pays him off in the gold. And then when this guy picks it up, he recognizes the coin and he holds it up to his own little trough. And I was kind of like, does he know about that? Like, in my mind, I'm like, does he know about the Hessian gold? But I'm like, oh wait, he made the same deal. And I didn't pick up on that till later. I went, oh yeah, that's how that pays off. Because his deals, we get to see what happens when your deal is up.
What happens?
Well, the devil comes and collects.
Yeah, he always gets his man, Jarrett.
He always gets his man.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. So, yeah, pretty well, like, the highlight of the whole movie is every time Walter Houston's on screen, he delights in his devilishness.
Oh, yeah.
And, yeah, so he's great. And then really it comes down to the ending, which I think is, like, super spooky and really well done. It feels a little truncated, and I don't know if how convincing Daniel Webster's big final speech is necessarily. It is in that, like, folksy kind of way of, like, what people's ideas of America are. I mean, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good little speech, but would it turn the hearts of Benedict Arnold, the bastard?
Well, I mean, it depends. Was Benedict Arnold really a bad guy, or was he doing what he thought was right?
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean, Jared? But I agree with you. Like, you don't feel like wowed by the speech, but you're like, but this is what the American people want. They want the promise of freedom and fresh grain.
Yeah.
Jared, you know?
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Yeah.
Freedom. I want all that money can buy.
Well, hey, when did this get a title change? Because
I'll talk a little bit about that.
Because I was trying to log it, and I was like, what the fuck?
Okay, so this is some pissery. Okay, so the original title of the movie is All That Money Can Buy, and is 107 minutes long.
Okay.
And then it was later re-released under the title The Devil and Daniel Webster, and there's a version of this film that runs 85 minutes.
Okay.
And on Letterboxd, they have the original title, which it doesn't even go by anymore, but it also has the runtime of the re-release, which is under Devil and Daniel Webster, which is 85 minutes. Because when I went to watch this, I was assuming I was in for an hour and 25-minute long movie, but it turned out to be an hour and 46 minutes. And I was wondering as the movie kept going, and it wasn't like a drag or anything like that. I thought it was really easy to watch. I was like, what time is it? And I went, what the hell's going on? So I just like to chalk that up to our friends at themoviedb.org who have locked these things for some reason, because they're little tyrants, little pissants that want to rule the world, apparently. But
maybe you should get in there and change things.
So, I mean, as far as like why, like, because originally you would think that, did like the movies, like the Devil and Daniel Webster title, did it like rub people wrong? Were they scared? Were they like, oh man, it's about devil worship? No, because what happened was, I guess the same year this came out, The Devil and Miss Jones had also come out. So I mean, it was fine to talk about those devils.
Just not the right one or same ones?
Yeah.
Or what?
Apparently. I mean, it was, The Devil and Miss Jones. It would just be too confusing, I guess. I mean, and they're both from the same studio, RKO, so.
I like that RKO sound at the start of the movie.
Of course you did. And fun fact, the director of this, William Dieterle, whose name I've just been butchering 3 different times on this one episode, he played a feature role in F.W. Murnau's Faust from 1926.
Was he Faust, or was he someone else?
He's some guy. He's in it.
Oh. Did you watch Faust this week to prep for this?
No, I've seen it, though. And I've actually read Marlowe's Faust. And I've read Tim Virgil's Faust comics.
How do you think it lines up?
It's good.
Yeah, but you know the thing about Faust that I think that they neglect on? Wasn't his whole thing that he just wanted to like have sex with that lady?
Well, he wanted to have all the powers. And so he could travel around the globe and do whatever he wanted. He wanted to be a real Sorcerer Supreme type.
Is that a trademark like title?
I don't know.
It
sounds pretty good. I mean, someone should use that.
If no one's exactly. Okay. Sorry, what were you talking about?
This Devil and Daniel Webster.
Oh, titles.
And not to be confused with The Devil and Daniel Johnston.
What's that one about?
That's a documentary about the musician Daniel Johnston. It's really good.
Is it though?
It is.
Are documentaries really good though?
Some of them. RJ, what did you think of The Devil and Daniel Webster?
Well, Jarrett, believe it or not, this was a rewatch for me.
I saw that and I didn't believe it. I was like, why are you turning my house into one of lies here?
I believe I borrowed this movie from you a number of years ago. I could be wrong, but do you own this on DVD?
I do.
So I possibly August 1st, 2015, I think I borrowed this movie from you and I watched it.
Wow.
What do you think of them apples?
I don't remember that at all.
Do you know why I watched it?
Shingles?
No, it was on Christopher Nolan's list of movies that he really liked, and I was like, I'll check it out.
I want to be like Christopher Nolan.
I said, I'm Chris Nolan. I'm a movie.
Hey,
Let me check it out.
The power of suggestion. I'm sure that those have sold some movies here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I can definitely say that Patton Oswalt's recommendation of The Baron of Arizona definitely sold me that Eclipse collection.
I think most of his recommendations stand up. But I think I watched this and maybe Night of the Hunter around the same time.
Uh-oh.
Before podcasting, when I was borrowing Criterions from you and then getting disappointed and then getting like salty, and you're like, want to start a Criterion podcast? And I was like, do I ever? I think this movie's all right. I think it's got some really neat stuff that I like. All the like props and like production things are really cool, where all the devil tricks with his like fire bending and the way that they kind of get his like special effects in there. I think that stuff's awesome. I think the story's pretty cool. There's some stuff in it though that I think is like, I don't even want to say dated because I don't think it is that much, but it's kind of the stuff we're talking about a little bit, where like the American like capitalist agenda, and like not that doesn't even really like bother me that much, but it just comes off a little heavy-handed sometimes. And I think it's like, it's kind of funny because I think at some points they kind of give like conflicting messages, because it's all about like the American dream and things like that, but then they're also like, you gotta support the grunge, which is basically like just a union kind of, right, where they like collectively pool all their resources.
Yes.
So it's kind of like almost communism.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not. I wouldn't be quite use that word.
I wouldn't drop the big C on that one. But it's like yeah, I just thought it was kind of funny. Like it was like, well, they're kind of like a union almost.
Right.
But it's also
it's like a God, I'm trying to think back. I'm rusty on my provincial politics, but that was a thing though for farmers, because yes, they're kind of in it for themselves, but the idea was like, hey, we'd probably be better off if we pooled our resources together while remaining independent.
Well, yeah, co-op was basically, and like stuff like that, right? You know about co-op?
Yes.
And UFA, yeah.
There
so it was
you
like
go.
kind of like that kind of stuff, but I don't know. I just thought that was funny. And then yeah, like a lot of the stuff where it's like a good, maybe in Massachusetts, but not in New Hampshire, a good American man, and you're just like, whoa, Daniel Webster, my God. And there's a lot of promise of those things, and it's kind of funny. Like I don't think it brings down the movie at all, but they really hammer it, you know. They hammer it down, and then the consarnates.
Oh, yeah. I had the subtitles on while watching this one, and yeah, consarnate. Yeah,
like consarn, and then it.
Yeah, consarnate, and a jangling. It's always the a hyphen a thing.
Come down a jangling. Consarn it, and you're just like, God, Javis Stone. So Javis Stone's kind of a bad dude. He Michael Jackson's his baby out that window to all those people in the barn, and I was like, whoa, dude, fucking relax. You got to bring that baby back in here. And I mean, he does have a pretty shitty day. Like the pig breaks its leg. He spills all his seed, and I get it.
That's very sensual.
Oh, Jarrett. So, but anyways, Javis Stone, he's kind of like, I don't know. I never sympathize for him, because it's kind of like, you're just kind of like
he's a fool. Like, yeah, he's a fool of his own making.
Yeah, you're kind of a bad dude. It's like it wasn't that bad. Well, maybe it was, but it's like you did it to yourself, and then you got too high on yourself. And then at the end, he's like, please, Mr. Webster, save me. Save me.
Mr. Webster.
And like, that's more
at least he doesn't give up his own child's soul.
That's true. He doesn't. But that kid's a little piece of shit anyways, though.
I
hate those horses.
But then he gets fucking whooped.
Yeah.
And then and so imagine this, folks. You have a politician who comes riding in on a horse and buggy, and he's just fucking spanking a kid, just letting him have it, and everyone's just like, "Yep, that's fine." That kid, that little shit deserved it, and you're like, "Huh? If you couldn't get away with that nowadays."
What if the kid deserved it?
That would be bad parenting.
But that kid did deserve it. He was a little piece of shit.
And just in real life, beating your kid results in them straightening out and being better for it. Because right afterwards, he's a great kid.
Yeah, he's taking care of that little cat.
Listens to his parents, and he's better for it. So those are the types of observations and life lessons one will get from The Devil and Daniel Webster.
Hey, maybe after that kid went on to become president of the United States.
Exactly. Or perhaps a member of the Senate.
Or the Grange.
The Grange.
Lagrange. So yeah, that kid's a piece of shit. But anyways, yeah, I don't really feel bad for old Jabez Stone during this movie because you're like, you suck, man.
What about Ma?
I feel bad for the wife. I like Ma's okay, but Ma's also like, I don't know. She's like kind of cool where he's like, he's like, I'm a grown ass man. She's like, well, act like one then. And you're like, shit, Ma. You know? So there's that. That's cool.
Mary Stone.
Yeah, Mary Stone. But yeah, so like some of the technical things are pretty neat. Like I like all the flames that the devil has. Like he's doing that thing and it just like kind of bursts into flames in his hand. You're like, ooh, that's cool. And then writing in the tree, the contract, I was like, ooh, that's cool. Even the gold, and then the presentation of the jury of the damned. I think that's pretty neat too. Like where they pull them all out. You're like, yeah.
The kind of out of focus thing.
Yep. Plus, it's funny too that Daniel Webster's like the epitome of what a good American man is, and he's just kind of a drunk.
Yeah.
He's like, I ain't never turned down no jug. He's like, come on, have a little sip of this jug. It's neat. It's fun. Mm-hmm. It makes me feel like I might have a shot one day. I might still have a chance. Do you know what I mean, Jared?
Yeah, I understand.
Yep. So that's all cool. That's all well and good. But no, yeah, the movies. I think I liked it more the first time I watched it, but now so far in the Criterion game, I'm like, and it's got some neat. I like a lot of the things that the movie does, but there are a few things that are just a little dated. And like I said, nothing bad towards it. It's just it is what it is.
Were you aware that Daniel Webster was a real man?
That seems like out of taste.
Daniel Webster was an American statesman who represented New Hampshire, Massachusetts in the United States Congress and served as the United States Secretary of State under Presidents William Henry Harrison, John Tyler, and Millard Fillmore. He was also a prominent attorney, especially during the period of the Marshall Court. Throughout his career, he was a member of the Federalist Party, the National Republican Party, and the Whig Party.
The what? The Whig Party?
That's right.
What did they do?
They were a political party, RJ.
Did they, the people for like Whigs?
There's an H in there.
Whigs? Huh?
That's right.
Interesting.
I don't know. I'm not seeing anything though about him battling the devil. So.
Well, I don't know if it's something that he would advertise.
It's true.
But, this is a story that could take place. This is just one story, Jerry. This thing happens all over America every day. And if you're not careful, it could happen to you.
I get the sense he was not for slavery, so that's good.
Is that how he was presented in the movie?
I don't know if it comes through in the text of the film specifically. There's a little bit of talk of the North and the South, or at least no, that's when Mr. Scratch is talking about like in the South he's seen as a Northerner, and in the North he's seen as a Southerner. But something along those lines. But yeah, there's no out there. There's no just saying slavery's bad. So, but in real life he was not one of those guys.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Hey, what's a weird scene is when he's like passed out drunk in that buggy, and then Jabez talks for him, but then he like wakes up right away, and it's like you kind of feel like he's doing it to give someone else a chance, but watching it, I was like, that's a weird scene. I was like, why is that in here?
Well, because they wanted to create a connection between Jabez and Daniel Webster, because they wanted Jabez to speechify.
Yeah, but like, in terms of Daniel Webster, is like, was he passed out drunk, or did he want someone else to sleep?
He was tired.
Hey, you know what else I watched, Jarrett? On the Criterion channel, they have the alternate takes.
Oh.
I watched about 10 minutes of that. You know what that is?
Alternate takes of the film?
It's alternate takes of the film. It's basically based on the shorter version of this thing, and like what the takes were in that one.
Okay.
And it was pretty much exactly the same.
Right.
So it's not even the way it's presented too. It'll show the scene in the first one, and then it'll show the scene again in the second one. And so I was kind of watching, and I was like, I wonder who this is for. I guess filmmakers?
Real film aficionados.
I guess. I don't know. I wish it was loggable on Letterboxd because I watched 15 minutes. I feel like I earned something, but
You want something for your time.
I want. Hey, if it's not loggable on here, then what's the point?
Mm-hmm. So tell me about Alec Baldwin and his directorship.
Oh, Jarrett. I could have logged this as a Jarrett pick. You know that, right?
Well, all I'm saying is just last week, you said if anyone recommends a remake of a film that we're talking about,
yep,
you would watch it. And come Tuesday, absolutely no one had followed up on that. No one looked ahead and said, hey, RJ, there's a movie that's a remake of this thing. And it's got Alec Baldwin.
It sure does. No, I'm aware. And it just so happened it was available on Amazon Prime. Yep. So I was like, I'll watch it. The one and only directorialship of Mr. Alec Baldwin.
Under another name.
Oh, did he Alan Smithy this?
Yeah, it's some ridiculous name.
Like, Archibald Maclish?
Is that it?
Maybe. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Okay, so Shortcut to Happiness came out a mere 13 years ago, which I find pretty wild.
It's pretty depressing to say that 2007 was 13 years ago.
Yep, 13 years ago. But I was like, when I heard that there was
Harry Kirkpatrick.
That's okay. I like that. So when you told me that this existed, I thought it would have been older than that, but whatever. So Alec Baldwin is Jabez Stone. Jebez still. Jennifer Love Hewitt is the devil. Anthony Hopkins is Daniel Webster. And then you have Dan Aykroyd as Alec Baldwin's friend. Have I interested you, Jarrett?
No.
So this is what happens. Alec Baldwin is a would-be writer, and the movie starts off with him writing a story about a little boy learning the meaning of love and life, and him symbolically getting rid of his bike by tying balloons to it and letting the bike float away. And it's kind of what it's all about in this life. Do you understand, Jared? Like what we do, you and me.
Nope.
It kind of.
Are you talking about podcasts?
Kind of, just life in general. So he's a writer and he doesn't have a lot of success, and he works at a retail store and he tries to do the right thing and he gets fired, and then he's fed up because he can't write, and he throws his typewriter out the window and it kills a woman, and then and then Jennifer Love Hewitt shows up and she's like, hey, maybe you'd like a way out of this. And then the cops come up, led by Bobby Cannavale, and they're like, hey, are you Jabez Stone? Did you just kill this woman? And Jennifer Love Hewitt's like, of course he didn't. So she gets him out of it, and then the woman becomes alive again. And you feel like it would be used later as like to get out of the contract, like she coerced him into it, but it's just a part of the story. So what he wants is to be a famous author. So he becomes a kind of like he becomes an author that's his books sell very wildly, but nobody likes them. Do you know what I mean by that, Jarrett? Like they get really bad reviews. So he's like not happy because like no one likes his books and they're popular and they sell.
Okay.
Kind of like Dean Koontz, I guess.
Or Stephen King, one and the same. So what happens is you get some weird stuff. Like Dan Aykroyd is his friend, but then it's kind of like the farmer's crops. Jennifer Love Hewitt, like she spells it out. She's like, for one person to succeed, another must fail. So Dan Aykroyd's like book fails, and then he confronts Alec Baldwin, and then Dan Aykroyd gets hit by a car. He gets run over and dies. And then Alec Baldwin's other friend gets cancer, and it's when he's in the peak of his success. So the other friend like comes to like try to talk to Alec Baldwin, and he's like, hey, I just need to talk to you. And Alec Baldwin's like, yeah, sure, I'm just in this photo shoot. And then the friend pukes like all over everyone, like on the table, and he's like, oh, I'm sorry. Is this a comedy?
It's not supposed to play like that, Jer. So the friend like pukes everywhere, and then he's like, oh, I'm sorry. And then Alec Baldwin's like, get out of here. And then he dies.
Okay.
And then, so the way you get the progression of time on this is like someone that Alec Baldwin knows has a baby the year he signs the contract. And then like he sees the girl once, he's like, is this your baby? And she's like, not anymore. She's going to be 5 next week. And I found it was like, so that's to show you that time has passed, but it's so weird because he's like, is this your baby? And he's like, what? Have you not seen this woman for 5 years? That's strange. So anyways, then he tries to get out of his contract and he goes to Anthony Hopkins, who is still Daniel Webster, but he's an editor for like a big corporation.
Uh-huh.
And he knows it's not that he's had run-ins with the devil because he has the devil's tail on a plaque in his office. And that's how Alec Baldwin knows that he's done it. Okay. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So he gets Anthony Hopkins to be his legal representation. And the jury of the damned here, it's really weird. It's not a jury of the damned. It's like a jury of peers. It's like Hemingway and like Kafka and like writers and stuff like that.
Oh, did you take a screenshot of this by any chance?
No, I didn't take any screenshots of this movie. I did take a picture of the bike floating away on balloons because I thought that was funny.
I want to see who they cast for the Hemingway and Kafka.
No, they're like no one recognizable.
Is the suggestion that those writers also sold their souls?
Well, see, that's what I thought was weird because I was like,
are they in hell? Or
well, yeah, because I was like, well, the jury of the damned is like. It's supposed to be the bad dudes, so it was like all these like famous writers. It should be all
the bad writers. Should be all the famous bad writers.
Yeah, and I was like, so I found it strange too. I was like, wait a minute. I was like, are they saying that all of these guys like cheated their way to success? That's strange. And then Dan Aykroyd is the judge who just who was killed earlier in the movie. So you have that, and then they do their argument thing, and it's not great. There's a lot of slow-mo. Like when Jennifer Love Hewitt comes in, she'll be like, and then like everything slows down.
Remember when she was a big deal?
Oh, I remember. There's also a scene with some scooter kids where she hisses at them and they fly off their scooters, but it's like in slow motion. It's like, so he gets out of it, and then the bike floats away with the balloons. It's I don't know, dude. It's not a good show. I mean, no one thought it would be, but
no,
like it's not very good, my man. Not very good.
Well, thanks for taking the hit on that.
Yeah, well, I said I would, so I'll do it. That's fine. Whatever.
You want to hear about some people who hate the devil and Daniel Webster?
Sure.
All right. 1 star from David Punch, who has a lot to say here.
Okay.
It's always difficult to figure out how to properly adapt a short fable into a feature-length film. Many of the problems that plague The Devil and Daniel Webster, All That Money Can Buy, stem from the fact that there's very little in terms of story for the majority of the runtime. It's a simple moral tale about greed, one that you might tell to young children, but it's incredibly stretched out without adding anything of interest. The characters are all dreadfully boring, with the titular characters only popping up once in a while, leaving the audience to suffer through the wet blanket protagonist Jabez Stone. He makes a deal with the devil, who's the only good performance in the film, by the always entertaining Walter Houston, and over the course of 7 years prospers before the devil returns to collect. There's an ensuing court case over the soul of Stone, with Webster fighting against the devil, that results in exactly the ending you'd expect. There's also a weird theme of nationalism that keeps popping up for no clear reason. Not only does it have nothing to do with the story at hand, but it happens so often that it almost feels like some rather toxic ideas are being shoved down our throats. There's a nice score by Bernard Herrmann that pops up every now and again, but other than that and a kooky performance from Houston, this film juggles between being unbearably boring to borderline harmful in its ideals. With such a simple concept, The Devil and Daniel Johnson should have been at least mildly entertaining, but without any engaging material or characters, there's nothing of value here.
I'm finding nothing of value from David Punch. Oh, he just gave Summertime 3.5 stars.
Oh.
So, big time nerd boy. Lots of movies, but 5-star films also include things like Night of the Hunter and Chicago. So, like, what are you gonna do? The rest are like Orson Welles movies.
Okay.
Here's where it's troublesome, though. 1 star for Punch Drunk Love.
Oh, my God.
And 1 star for Pumpkinhead? Get out of here. I know you're a big Well,
no.
okay, I know you're not a big Pumpkinhead guy, but Dress to Kill 1 star, Brick 1 star,
Jesus,
The Birds 1 star.
Vicious.
Here's some half-star films: Thelma and Louise, Buckaroo Banzai, Ruby Sparks, The Hurricane. I don't think those are 1-star films.
All right. Enough of this guy. All right. Next up, Movie Math, 1.5 star. I think I hated it since I felt like I was being preached at the whole time. I couldn't separate my bitterness towards self-righteousness and condescending conservatism. I can get behind the idea that greed is bad, but the idea that we have souls seems ridiculous.
Oh, come on. Don't be mad at the movie for that.
That's kind of rich, you know? It's like, whatever.
Yeah. Was that their whole review?
Yep.
Okay, like all their 5-star films are basically just movies that were nominated for Best Picture this year.
Oh,
like
cool.
1917, Jojo Rabbit, Parasite, Roma, Beautiful Boy. Those other 2 weren't, but Call Me By Your Name, 5 stars. Okay. You know what I mean, Jared?
That's Movie Math.
Is there any good half-star films here? Mac and Me, The Predator, Hellboy, the new one, Demon House. Whatever.
Finally, we'll do Grant.
Okay.
2.5 stars. I'm sad to say that although I was able to appreciate its technical merits, I just couldn't get into this historical fantasy. Maybe it's because I had no idea who Daniel Webster was. I don't think that has anything to do with anything.
No.
We didn't even know he existed, and he did.
Yeah.
The film paints him as a man of the people politician, a force for constitutional good, and I was happy to go with that. And I do like the way Edward Arnold plays him, but he's not really the star of his own film. Yeah, that's one thing I do. There's the bit where they're riding on the carriage with the young boy, the shitty boy, and it feels kind of like one of those after school specials where it's like the guy, the Constitution singing a song, or whatever it is, I'm a bill, and he sings a song about how bills are passed. It kind of felt like that, where this horse is the Bill of Rights, and this horse I call the Constitution.
I know what you mean.
Yeah,
on Capitol Hill.
Yeah. No, the main man is a one-horse farmer called Jabez, for whom nothing ever goes or seems to go right. And so when Mr. Scratch offers him a wealth-making deal, he accepts. In no time at all, Jabez can't help but accumulate money, possessions, and social status, but it all goes to his head, turning him into a feckless ass who neglects his wife, child, mother, and friends. The problem I have with this is that Jabez isn't that likable in the first place, at least not the way Craig plays him. And Shirley is personable as his wife Mary, but apart from her and Daniel, I couldn't really get invested in any of the characters, except for the agreeably devilish Belle, Simone Simon, an associate of Mr. Scratcher's who really kicks things up a notch when she appears. Possibly the worst thing about the film is the way in which it lurches all too frequently from loud to quiet, and vice versa, without a buyer leave. Perhaps I just wasn't in the mood for The Devil and Daniel Webster, but I can't imagine ever wanting to revisit it.
I'm usually the one who has issues with audio things, but I didn't think there was any here.
Yeah, I was fine.
I noticed a new trend here. Grant and the other 2 people all have Sunset Boulevard in their favorite films.
Oh.
Or like 5-star films, so that's weird. This person also gave The Love Witch and A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night 4 stars, which I don't totally agree with.
No.
This Grant's a weird duck, though. Like a lot of 1/2-star, 1-star films are for like Hallmark Christmas movies, like The Christmas Caper, Just in Time for Christmas, Journey Back to Christmas. Like, it's like, why even watch those?
Maybe they don't have a choice.
Maybe. But some bad takes on 1-star films would be Sorority House Massacre 2, the Jim Wynorski classic, and Sorority Babes at the Slimeball Bowl-orama. Those aren't 1-star films. I don't think so, at least. Do you?
Feckless.
Wow. Wow.
So yeah, Devil and Daniel Webster. Dece.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, I thought it was fine.
Yeah, I like it. That Walter Houston. Gotta love him.
He's definitely a guy.
After the break.
Uh-huh.
We eat your peach cobbler down, and then we look in our little books, and we're going to come visit you as we gesture toward the camera.
Jarrett gestured towards me, but the people, this is audio, so they can't see that.
But yeah, I don't know what the equivalent of pointing audio-wise is. Just saying, you. Whisper in your ear like I'm coming up from behind you.
Why did it have to be from behind?
So they don't see it coming.
I don't like the things you do sometimes. Or anytime.
That's okay. I'm going to get you.
Are you talking to me or the listener?